Hello everyone and welcome to our new video. Today, we will continue our journey through the first chapter of Genesis. This video will be a bit longer as we will do a detailed analysis of all the creation that God made in the first days up until the moment he creates man and woman. This video is organized into 4 parts so we can dive deeper into our understanding of each moment of creation. In the first part, we will read Genesis 1:1-10 and then reflect on what these first acts of creation teach us about God's power and his order over creation. In the second part, we will move on to Genesis 1:11-19, where we will see the creation of vegetation, the seas, and the celestial bodies. Here, we will discuss how God organizes life on earth and how this reflects his care and wisdom. The third part takes us to Genesis 1:20-25, where God creates the creatures of the sea, the birds, and the land animals. We will reflect on the diversity of creation and the essential role these creatures play in the harmony of the planet. And finally, in the fourth part, we will read Genesis 1:26-31, where God creates humankind in his image and likeness. Here, we will discuss our identity and the purpose God has for each of us within his creation. Stay with us until the end, as we have many profound reflections to share with you. Let's begin our journey through the first chapter of Genesis. Genesis 1:1-10. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. Verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The majestic opening of the Bible establishes God as the creator of everything. The beginning here is not just a time marker, but the start of existence, a moment when God brings something out of nothing. The creation of the heavens and the earth represents the totality of the universe. This verse reminds us that God is sovereign and that everything we see and know has its origin in him. Reflecting on this, it invites us to consider God's greatness and how he gives us purpose as our existence was intentionally planned. Verse 2. Now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Here we are introduced to the initial state of creation, chaos and emptiness. It reflects a lifeless and unstructured scene, but the mention of the Spirit of God moving over the waters is full of hope. This movement suggests an expectation of transformation, like an artist preparing to begin their masterpiece. Reflecting on this, we can see a parallel in our lives. Even in times of chaos and emptiness, the Spirit of God can bring order, life, and purpose. Verse 3. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. With a simple word, God brings light into existence. This is a transformative moment, as light symbolizes life, revelation, and the goodness of God. The creation of light is also a spiritual message. God is the source of all that is good and true. Reflecting on this, we are invited to seek God's light in our own lives, allowing it to illuminate our paths and drive away darkness. Verse 5. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. The naming of day and night shows God's authority over his creation. He organizes time and gives purpose to the daily cycle. This teaches us that God is a God of order, structuring even the smallest details of the universe. Reflecting on this, we see how God desires our lives to have rhythm, balance, and purpose. Verses 6-7. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. Here, God organizes the natural elements, creating the vault, the sky, and separating the waters above and below. This separation establishes the foundation for the environment that will sustain life. God doesn't just create, but carefully prepares the conditions for life to thrive. This reminds us to trust in His plan, even when we don't fully understand His actions. Verse 8, God called the vault sky, and there was evening and there was morning, the second day. The vault is named sky, completing another step of creation. The repetition of the phrase evening and morning reinforces the ordered progression of creation. God works in stages, showing that the fulfillment of a purpose isn't always immediate. Reflection. Just as God worked day by day, we are called to trust the process and persevere in our efforts. Verses 9 to 10, and God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters He called seas, and God saw that it was good. God gathers the waters and makes dry land appear, naming both. He transforms a chaotic environment into something habitable and functional. By declaring it was good, God celebrates His work and affirms the perfection of what was created. Just as God transformed chaos into order, He can bring clarity and purpose to our lives. Creation reminds us that every detail has meaning and that we can find beauty in the work of His hands. These verses introduce us to a creative, careful, and intentional God. He not only creates the universe, but He organizes it to be habitable and functional. In our lives, this passage teaches us to trust in God's sovereignty and plan, even when we face chaos or uncertainty. Every act of God reflects His love and desire to provide an environment where we can thrive. Genesis 1:11-19. And God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times, and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth." And it was so. Genesis 1, verse 14-19. And God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. As we continue with Genesis 1:11-19, God continues His creative work, establishing life on the earth, creating plants and creatures to populate the earth, seas, and skies. Each divine action, from the creation of fruit-bearing trees to the creation of celestial bodies, reflects His wisdom and care for creation. In this part of the narrative, it is important to reflect on the significance of the creation of vegetation, seas, and the firmament, and how each element of creation plays a vital role in the balance of the world. How do these verses show God's meticulous care for His creation? In what way do the seasons and natural cycles God establishes serve a purpose for the well-being of humanity and the planet? Now, let us meditate on what these verses mean for us in terms of our relationship with the natural world and the responsibility we have to care for everything God has created. Verses 11-12. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after its kind. And God saw that it was good. Here, God creates vegetation, the foundation for sustaining future life. He commands the earth to produce grass, herbs, and fruit trees, each with the ability to reproduce after its kind. This phrase is significant as it reflects the order and diversity of creation. The seed within the fruit represents the continuous cycle of life, showing God's care in planning the sustenance of living beings. These verses teach us about God's provision. Before creating animals and humans, He prepares a world that can sustain them. This reflects His wisdom and love in caring for His creatures even before they exist. In our lives, we can trust that God will provide everything we need at the right time. Additionally, the diversity of plants reminds us how God values the richness and beauty of differences, inviting us to admire and respect his creation. Verse 13, and the evening and the morning were the third day. This verse concludes the third day of creation. God's work on this day is complete, and the phrase evening and morning reinforces the pattern of a complete day. God works in stages and respects time. This teaches us the importance of patience and planning. Sometimes we want to see immediate results, but God shows us that progress is an ordered and intentional process. Verses 14 to 15. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God creates the lights in the sky, the sun, moon, and stars. These not only illuminate the earth, but also mark time, creating the cycles of days, nights, and seasons. These celestial bodies are more than just physical lights. They are tools that bring order to the world, helping humanity measure time and understand natural cycles. The lights show God's organization and wisdom in creating a structured world. They remind us that God is a God of order and precision. Furthermore, these celestial bodies have a symbolic role. The sun can be seen as a reflection of God's light and constant presence, while the moon and stars teach us about hope even in times of darkness. Just as the stars light up the night sky, God guides us and gives us direction in difficult moments. Verse 16, and God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made also the stars. God creates the sun to rule the day and the moon to rule the night, along with the stars. This hierarchy suggests that each element of creation has a specific and essential role. Here, God teaches us about purpose and function. Just as the sun, moon, and stars have their roles, each of us was created with a unique purpose. Even the stars, which may seem small and insignificant compared to the sun, have their role in beautifying the sky and giving direction, like in navigation. This reminds us that no one is insignificant in God's plan. Verses 17 to 18, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. God positions the lights in the firmament with a clear purpose, to illuminate the earth, mark time, and separate light from darkness. He observes his creation and declares that it is good. The declaration, "It was good," reminds us that everything God does is perfect and harmonious. He creates with intention, functionality, and beauty. This inspires us to seek excellence in everything we do, reflecting God's glory in our actions. We are also reminded that God separates light from darkness, which symbolically calls us to live in his light, rejecting the darkness of sin and evil. Verse 19, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. The fourth day ends with the complete creation of the celestial bodies. Once again, God works in an ordered manner, completing one stage before moving to the next. The structure of God's work reinforces the importance of doing things with calm and purpose. This reminds us that when facing tasks or challenges, we should trust in the process and order of God. These verses show how God meticulously and carefully organizes and prepares the world. He creates a functional and beautiful environment to sustain life, demonstrating his provision and wisdom. The creation of vegetation and the lights highlights the importance of planning, purpose, and order, teaching us that everything in creation has a role, a time, and a place. Additionally, there is an invitation to reflect on how light, both literal and spiritual, is central to God's plan. He is the source of the light that illuminates our lives and guides us on the right path. These verses call us to value creation and recognize God's sovereignty in every detail, big or small. Genesis 1, verse 20 to 25, and God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." So God created the great sea creatures, and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." So the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, cattle, creeping things, and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, the cattle according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Now we come to Genesis 1:20-25, where God brings to life the creatures of the sea, the birds of the sky, and the land animals. The Lord continues to fill the earth with his creation, and again he sees that everything he made is good. The emphasis here is on the vast world of life that God formed, reflecting his goodness and the desire to see the earth filled with diversity and beauty. In this section, we are invited to reflect on the diversity of life that God created and the care he took in establishing different forms of life to inhabit various environments. How can we learn from God's wisdom in creating such diverse and interdependent beings? And what is our role in caring for all the creatures that share the earth with us? Let us explore these reflections more deeply. Verse 20, and God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." Here, God fills the heavens and the seas with life. He commands the waters to bring forth abundantly living creatures, and for the birds to fly across the sky. It is the beginning of animal life in the world. The word abundantly reflects God's generosity and creativity, filling the spaces with diversity and beauty. This verse teaches us about the generosity of God and his ability to create in abundance. He does not just create what is necessary, but a world full of life and beauty. It leads us to admire the diversity of creation. Each species of fish, each type of bird was designed with a unique purpose. We are also called to reflect on our role as stewards of this creation, caring for what God has given us in a responsible and grateful manner. Verse 21. So God created the great sea creatures, and every living creature that moves, with which the waters abounded, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God creates the great sea creatures and all the birds. He also introduces the concept of according to their kinds, showing that each living being was created with unique characteristics, but within an ordered pattern. After creation, God declares that everything was good. This verse highlights the greatness of God as the creator. He is the author of both the majestic whales and the delicate birds, reminding us that no creature is insignificant in his eyes. The phrase, according to their kinds, reflects God's intentional planning, demonstrating that there is no randomness in his creation. It teaches us to recognize divine order in everything and appreciate the complexity and beauty of every form of life. The statement, "it was good," reinforces that God's creation is perfect and harmonious, inviting us to see God's goodness in everything around us. Verse 22, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." For the first time in the creation narrative, God blesses his creatures. He commands them to multiply and fill the spaces he designated for them, the seas and the skies. This reflects his intention for life to be abundant and dynamic. God's blessing reminds us that he is not only the creator, but also the sustainer. He desires his creatures to thrive and multiply. This blessing is also a reminder of God's generosity and his joy in seeing life flourish. For us, it symbolizes God's desire for our lives. He wants us to be fruitful, not only physically, but spiritually, multiplying goodness, love, and justice in the world. Verse 23. So the evening and the morning were the fifth day. The fifth day ends with the creation of life in the seas and the heavens. The narrative follows God's pattern of work, with each day bringing a new element into the world, completing steps in the right time. This verse is a reminder that God works in an orderly way, with patience and purpose. He completes each stage before moving on to the next. It teaches us the importance of trusting God's timing in our lives. Often we want to rush things, but God shows us that progress is a process that requires patience and faith. Verse 24, and God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, cattle, creeping things, and beasts of the earth, according to their kinds." And it was so. God creates the land animals, dividing them into categories: cattle, domesticated animals, creeping things, creeping animals, and beasts of the earth, wild animals. He creates them according to their kinds, once again emphasizing order and diversity. This verse shows us that God is a God of order, intentionality, and beauty. He carefully plans each creature, from the smallest insect to the largest mammal. For us, it is also a reminder that everything in our lives has a purpose, even if it's not immediately apparent. The diversity of creation invites us to reflect on God's greatness and to celebrate the variety and richness of His work. Verse 25, "And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kind, and the cattle according to their kind, and every creeping thing of the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good." God completes the creation of the land animals, reinforcing the concept of according to their kind. He observes what He has created and declares again that it was good. The recognition that it was good invites us to value and respect creation. God sees the beauty and perfection in His works, and we should do the same. Moreover, by creating each animal according to its kind, God demonstrates that order and diversity coexist in His creation. This teaches us that harmony does not mean uniformity, but rather an integration of differences that contribute to the greater good. In this passage, we see God filling the world with life. He creates the fish, the birds, and the land animals, blessing them to multiply and prosper. This narrative highlights God's love for life and His joy in creating a vibrant and diverse world. God's blessing upon living creatures reminds us that He desires life to flourish. This challenges us to consider how we can participate in this blessing by caring for the natural world and promoting life in all its forms. Finally, by declaring that everything was good, God calls us to recognize the goodness in His creation and live in harmony with it, respecting His purpose and plan for the world. Genesis 1:26-31. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in His own image. In the image of God He created him. Male and female He created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also, to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food." And it was so. Then God saw everything that He had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Finally, we come to Genesis 1:26-31, where God creates man and woman in His image and likeness and places them as stewards of His creation. Here we see the climax of creation. Humanity, made in the image of God, is called to rule over and care for the entire earth. This passage emphasizes the unique dignity of humanity and its responsibility over creation. At this point in the narrative, we are called to reflect on what it means to be made in the image of God. How does this reality challenge us to live justly and responsibly? What is God's divine purpose for humanity, and how can we fulfill this calling to rule and care for the world He has entrusted to us? Let us explore more deeply what these verses teach us about our identity, dignity, and mission as human beings. Verse 26, "Then God said, Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." This verse marks the pinnacle of creation. God decides to create humanity, but in a special way, in His image and likeness. This implies that man reflects divine attributes, such as intelligence, morality, creativity, and the ability to relate to God and others. God also grants man dominion over all creation, a responsibility that goes beyond power, requiring care and management. The concept of being made in God's image calls us to recognize our dignity and the value of every human being. It challenges us to treat others with respect and love, knowing that all reflect something of the Creator. The dominion given by God is not a call to exploitation, but to stewardship. We are responsible for caring for creation, acting as just and compassionate stewards. This verse also highlights the unique relationship between God and man, a call to live in communion with Him. Verse 27, so God created man in His own image. In the image of God He created him. Male and female He created them. God creates man and woman, both made in His image. This verse underscores the essential equality between the sexes before God, as both share the same dignity and purpose. The creation of male and female reflects God's intention for humanity to be relational and complementary, living in harmony and cooperation. This verse teaches us that equality and diversity coexist in God's plan. Men and women have differences, but both are equally valuable and dignified before God. It challenges all forms of discrimination and invites us to promote relationships based on respect, love, and cooperation. The creation of both genders also points to the importance of living in community and harmony, reflecting the relational nature of God. Verse 28, then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. God blesses man and woman and gives them two main missions, to multiply and to exercise dominion over creation. This blessing confirms that God desires humanity to prosper and fill the earth with life. At the same time, dominion implies responsibility, not just power, highlighting the human role as guardians of creation. God's blessing is a reminder of His desire for us to live fruitful and abundant lives. To multiply refers not only to reproduction, but also to contributing positively to the world, leaving a legacy of goodness, justice, and love. The call to dominate the earth reinforces our responsibility to care for the environment and protect the resources God has entrusted to us. This verse also highlights that God's blessing comes with a purpose, challenging us to live meaningfully and in alignment with His will. Verse 29, and God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. God provides food for man through plants and trees. This shows His provision and care. The initial diet of man was vegetarian, emphasizing the harmony between man and creation. God provides what is necessary to sustain both human and animal life. God's provision reflects His character as sustainer. He cares for our physical needs and invites us to trust in Him to supply what we need. This verse also challenges us to value the resources we have, avoiding waste and caring for what God has given us. The initial diet of humanity points to the harmony and balance that God planned for the world, reminding us to live sustainably and at peace with the environment. Verse 30, also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. God also provides food for the animals, showing that His creation is interconnected. The initial harmony between humans and animals is evident, with both living peacefully, without violence or destruction. Verse 31, and God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good, and the evening and the morning were the sixth day. God completes His work of creation and observes that everything He made was very good. This assessment not only reflects the perfection of His work, but also the harmony and purpose of all creation. The declaration that it was very good invites us to contemplate the perfection of God's work. It challenges us to see goodness in our own lives, even amid difficulties. Moreover, this verse is a reminder that we were created to live in harmony with God, with others, and with creation. By concluding the sixth day, God teaches us the importance of completing our tasks with excellence and purpose, trusting that everything He does is for good. This passage highlights the uniqueness of humanity as bearers of God's image, the responsibility to care for creation, and the initial harmony among all things. God not only created the world, but also designed it to be sustained and to prosper. The narrative calls us to reflect on how we are living in relation to this plan. Are we taking care of creation? Are we valuing human dignity in our interactions? Are we recognizing that everything God created is very good? By meditating on these verses, we are invited to renew our commitment to live in harmony with God and His creation, acknowledging our responsibility and connection with the world around us. And with that, we conclude our reflection on the first chapter of Genesis. We saw how God, with His infinite wisdom and power, created the world in a perfect and intentional order. Every part of creation reveals His care and purpose for everything He made. But our journey doesn't end here. Soon we will release chapter 2 of Genesis, where we will continue to explore the creation of humankind, the Garden of Eden, and the beginning of the special relationship between God and humanity. So stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to be alerted as soon as the next video is released. We're just getting started on this deep walk through the scriptures, and we hope you continue with us to discover more about the wonderful story of creation and God's plan for us. Until the next video, and may God bless you all.